Rick Wilson, welcome to
Molly
Fast
Jong-Fast. How
Politics.
are you
Where
on this fine
oh,
afternoon?
I'm just living the dream
Living
here.
the damn dream.
Donald Trump, you may have heard of him. He's the president of the United States. He's playing golf.
That is a real shocker to learn
Yeah.
that he is playing golf. That would be like that would be like me being surprised to learn that Ted Cruz was stuffing another hobo in the trunk of his car.
My man trying to get sued. I wish that people could see Jesse's face. He's turned off his video, but the face of horror was what we saw. So let's talk about we're getting at another week of unbridled Trumpism. It's Trump.
It has been buck naked Trumpism all week, and it hasn't got. I mean, I think the things he set out to do that were outrageous were not really outrageous. I mean, all the shit with the RussiaGate stuff is just that's
Yeah,
just
that didn't. By the way,
that's just like
that
as I like to say, that goes over like a fart in a hurricane. Nobody
that
cares after 5 minutes.
that was incredible. By the way, I wanna do another minute on that because,
Yeah.
like, one of the things that's happened with Trump is that despite the fact that every institution has happily caved to him, right? They've
Happily.
just been like, "Oh, I'm a billionaire, but if God forbid I lose
You need $100 million from our
$11." Yeah.
university? Sure, why not?
Sure. So universities, lawyers, billionaires, cave, cave, cave. But what's interesting is despite the fact that we are all cowards in America, I think that's the fairest assessment of the case, his power is lessening. And it's like a
Yes.
bizarre phenomenon to watch. So this week, he's obsessed with trying to distract from Epstein. It's been 4 weeks of the story. So he
Yeah.
decides to release the Russia dossier because he feels that everyone is still living in 2017 discuss.
Look, the most hilarious thing is, like, they're issuing the secret annex of the Durham report. It'll prove and what it proved was that all these emails that they claim are the smoking gun, that Durham investigated them and said these were all bullshit, they were made up. These aren't real. These didn't exist. They were never that you could there's no proof whatsoever they came from the people they say they came from. Yet MAGA went and ran with it because they are really
But they couldn't
they're
but I
so
don't think it
no,
permeated. I
it
don't
didn't. No, it
Right,
it didn't even survive inside MAGA world for
right.
24 hours. It didn't even survive
Yeah.
inside that hothouse of horse shit for 24 hours.
It's interesting because it's like Trump has had such a hold on his base and really on the rest of us.
Phenomenal.
And and then this Epstein story just has they just can't get
Molly,
out of it.
every day I wake up and I'm like, "Okay, they're gonna change the subject today somehow, some way," and they don't. Every day it gets worse for them. I think sending Ghislaine Maxwell down to the
Yeah,
cushy
that was
club fed where the Real Housewives and Elizabeth Holmes are parked
Helms
right
are
now. That was a great optic, John.
yeah,
I mean, that was terrific.
brilliant
By the
move
way,
there.
on a note on that I read about yesterday,
Moved it
Bureau of Prisons does not answer to the Justice Department.
no,
So Bondi or Bove or Blanche could not have called up Bureau of Prisons and said, "Hey, move her to to Club Fed." It had to come from the White House.
and also, I mean, the White House, the DOJ, they're the same now, right? Like,
Oh, yeah,
there's no
yeah,
independent
no.
judiciary. I think my favorite part of the story is watching Elizabeth Holmes working out. The picture of her, blonde hair, pink lipstick, got weights running
Oh,
in the
yeah.
thing. A friend of mine who has little kids sent it to me and said, with the comment, 24/7 childcare. Like, I know jail is bad, but have you taken care of small children?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I find the whole thing to be, I mean, and it did not go over well with even his own people. It really it
Yeah.
stank on ice for even his own people were, like, very angry about this, and and, uh, as desperate as they are to get out of the ditch, the other symbol of his power taking a big hit this week was John Thune saying, "We're gonna technically leave the Senate open so we can't do any recess appointments."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe Judge Janine was the final bridge for some of these people, like, "No mas, dude. I can't."
They have been so craven, the Republicans in the Senate, and they have been just so cowardly. I mean, they just the idea of a mean tweet, despite the fact that the guy is the polling by the way, the polling on Epstein is, like,
It's
amazing.
devastating.
Right, like,
I mean,
80% of Americans are like, "He's involved,
right.
and if he pardons her, it stinks to high
And
heaven." So,
31% of Republicans think he was involved in crimes with Jeffrey Epstein.
I mean, what these are your base. These are the people who
Dude,
voted for you, and they
dude.
still think you did
Now look,
crimes with
I
the
will say
most
this, a percentage of
notorious.
those people are like, "Yes, perhaps Donald Trump was a pedophile, but I still love him to death."
Right, right, right.
That's the psychotic, like, super
But
fringy part,
still, that's
but
insane.
it's madness, Molly. It is beyond the valley of madness,
Yeah.
and nobody in Washington right now is waking up thinking, "Man, this is gonna get so much better."
Yeah. No, they're not. There is no one but it's funny because it's like we're basically hurtling towards a cliff, right? The
Oh, yeah.
the public markets are like have decided that really now Trump is serious. They don't like the tariffs. We have all day Canadian officials on MSNBC being like, "Please, please, please, sir, lower the tariffs." Little do they know they should be going on Fox and Friends. 'Cause he doesn't watch MSNBC. And my man is just, like, taking a chain and, he's out playing golf. So, it
Hey,
doesn't strike me.
Molly, his reaction to this whole scandal, to this whole discovery, he has gotten it wrong at every turn.
Yeah,
He's gotten it wrong at every turn, and I think right now, you're right, I think the markets are finally saying, "Oh, shit, he's not playing anymore." Now this has become a real crisis. He's not gonna be able to walk and chew gum on this, and if he just replaces the person at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or even if he got rid of Jerome Powell, just doing these things has actually just doing talking about these things has actually made the market less confident.
right.
It's actually made them more nervous about the future, and there are a lot of reasons to think that the market could take a very swift turn in the wrong direction for Donald Trump.
And the bad news is we're all gonna lose a lot of money. The
Oh,
good
yeah.
news the good news is
Happy retirement, folks.
the good news is and also, by the way, I wanna another thing that you may not have heard this week is that, Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency cost us billions of taxpayer dollars. Right. Good
Yes,
another good
just
one.
go way to go, Elon. Good work there,
The
champ.
the bad news about Donald Trump driving us into a ditch is that Donald Trump is driving us into a ditch. The good news about Donald Trump driving us into a ditch is that he is changing public sentiment, and he's
Yes.
already pretty unpopular. It turns out those videos of the crying women being dragged from their cars in front of their children because Stephen Miller wants more people deported, is not it ain't it, chief.
It ain't it, chief. You know what, Molly? I think that's a really good point, and I think one of the things that we're seeing right now is there's a if you watch Fox and you get your news from Facebook and Twitter, you believe that 50% of the country is all in all the time on Donald Trump.
Right.
If that's your news environment, that's what you believe. What we're seeing right now is that Donald Trump is 25 points underwater on inflation and prices.
Yeah.
He's 16 points underwater on the economy. He's 6 points underwater on immigration, which
On
had been
immigration,
traditionally
which is
his
winner.
strongest issue.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you're right. His power is now at that point where it is diminishing, it is shrinking. I think that makes him more dangerous in terms of the use of executive power,
Mhm.
but it does show you that he's on a clock now. That this
Yeah.
that this that this show is running out of gas.
I think, yes, it's out of gas. I also think the power of Trumpism is not the same. Like,
Oh no,
Lindsey Graham has been the sycophant to end all sycophants. He's being
sure.
primaried. He's being primaried
Yeah. By
by the
by
MAGA right.
by a MAGA Project 2025, bro. What do you think Lindsay's gonna learn from that? What lessons is he gonna learn? Nothing. If he wins, he'll still say, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's the president. I owe him everything." But, you're right. He's been the ultimate ass kisser for Trump
Yeah.
over and over and over. He traveled the furthest from the light to the dark of almost anybody in the Senate.
And his
He went from
reward
John McCain to Donald Trump.
and his reward is nothing.
Humiliation and possible defeat.
It is, I have to tell you, no one has ever had a smarter book title than you, my friend. I'm serious, like, here's a guy who's hitched his wagon to Donald J. Trump, and now he is,
Now
but,
he's gonna get spanked in a primary. And look, Lindsey's a
you think he
good fun
wins?
I'll tell you, if Donald Trump comes out and says vote for whatever this Project 2025 dipshit is, Paul Dans,
Oh,
Trump's word is law in Republican primaries. There are very
so
few cases where he doesn't win.
is there so North Carolina Democrats have
Yep, Cooper.
Cooper. I think he calls it Cupper, but I don't care. I'll take Cooper because it sounds more sane. He's just an unbelievably good candidate, won
Ten
statewide as
ten,
governor,
ten
the
ten.
dream. In a rapidly purpling state, you
Right.
could not ask for better. Maine, no one. What's happening in Maine?
Look, I'm hearing LePage is try to make a comeback run,
Is
another
a
run.
Republican? So, but they have a Republican
Yeah, I
sitting
know,
Collins.
but that now they're all grumpy about Collins and,
So LePage is gonna run so what
I
where
hope so.
is
My understanding about a week ago, I talked to somebody who does Senate polling who said they're watching over their shoulder because Paul LePage is making all this noise and Trump
wants
apparently wants
LePage?
him instead of Collins, even though Collins ends up voting for him 99% of the time. He doesn't like any
So
daylight.
so if LePage wins, so is there a where's the Democrat? Who is the Democrat
There
that's
is,
gonna win?
man, I'm sorry, you got me short on this one.
No,
I
there's
had the
no
name in
one.
my head.
There isn't anyone so
Eh,
far.
Not so far. There was, somebody who passed on it, a former statewide official who passed
Janet
on it.
Janet Mills would
Janet
be,
Mills.
but she's
Yeah,
77 years old.
right.
She's the governor now.
Yeah.
So it's a 6-year term.
Mhm.
Democrats are trying to phase out the
Look,
older generation.
there are a lot of good younger politicians in Maine. I don't know them as well as I know some of the other swingier states. I think something will emerge there for 2 reasons. 1, Maine is gonna be on the forefront of this rural healthcare wipeout that the big
Yeah.
bad bill has engineered. 2, if it is LePage, he invokes a very visceral reaction in Democrats because he is what's the word I'm looking for? Rabid psychopath. And so I think
Tell
he'll
us what you really think.
but look, North Carolina is a piece of good news. I think we've got a very interesting situation in the House right now because of all the redistricting garbage.
Let's talk about the House. Texas Republicans likely heading
Yep,
into Illinois
yep.
to break the quorum, being protected by your friend of mine, Governor
Governor
Pritzker.
Pritzker. Yep.
Is there a world in which Governor Pritzker ends up making him president in
Look,
2028?
it's way too early to like many a slip between the cup and the lip between here and
Right.
28, but Democratic governors are at the front line of this. And if Texas and Ohio and Florida, all of whom are talking about doing this, do this, then California and Oregon and Washington and Illinois and New York and Massachusetts have to do the same thing.
Right.
We cannot be disarmed here. We cannot because, as I said on TV this morning
With me.
with you, in fact, that was a good
Yes.
hit. We had a good hit.
That was a really long hit. We
It
just
was
kept
long.
going and I was
I know.
like,
I kept thinking like I kept like wrapping up and then he was really like, "And what about?" It was
yeah.
fun though. It was a good one. He's always so good. My theory of the case is if Republicans take back the House, I don't think they'll certify the 2028 election for a Democrat.
No, it's definitely true.
I
So
don't think they'll certify the election.
no, but we can't get into I mean,
I know, but
yes, but I
I don't wanna
don't
get
think
that far down the
yeah,
line.
I
I'd
don't
rather
think
just stomp
Republicans
the
are gonna
crap out of them
take
this year and
I
take
don't
care
think
of business.
Republicans are gonna take back that. I think Republicans are gonna lose a House. I
Yeah.
think the reason they wanna redistrict is because they know they're gonna lose a
Yeah,
House. I think
they're looking for a cheat code to win
yeah,
this year
and
or
I
next year.
think I also wanna add, I think that what is happening now, the unpopularity of the Democratic brand is not because the Democratic brand is unpopular, which it is. It's because Democrats are mad at them
That's
because
it.
they suck. And,
Democrats
like
are pissed at their own leadership for
yeah,
not being fighters.
right,
A
and does
and
that right. I don't think that means they're gonna vote for Republicans. I think it means they're furious because
it means they're furious. Look, it might mean they don't turn out, but they're not gonna
right, which
switch
is
parties.
right, which
They're
isn't
not
their
jumping in
problem.
like, "Hey, you know what I need? My weak Democratic Party leadership means I want fascism." It's not how this works.
But I
They
also think
yeah.
what's interesting about all those poll numbers is to see, we have had so many news cycles about young men being Trumpers,
Yep.
but young women are not. And they are, and the first of all, Trump has lost a lot of
by
those
like
young men.
90 to 10 now with young women
Right.
under
Yeah.
30s.
But also, like, Trump has lost a lot of those young men with
Yeah.
the Epstein files. I mean, I was just reading some reporting about, all these young men who he went on these podcasts, he got these low frequency voters,
Yep.
and then all these low frequency voters wanted were the things that honestly Joe Rogan wants, right? You know, not to have COVID restrictions. All right. I mean, okay, no COVID restrictions. They're very helpful when there's no COVID. And then also, they wanted the Epstein files released because they felt that, somehow there was some, whatever.
They had a theory. They had a theory of the world that it's not exactly the same one that the right wing has, that the MAGA right has. Part of their theory of the world is we've gotten fucked over as young men
Right.
because
Right.
powerful people always protect each other and they never protect us. So
Right.
Epstein had kind of a resonance with them, different than the QAnon MAGA
Yeah.
version of that theory. They
But pretty
intersect a lot.
but equally stupid.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I mean,
ridiculous, absurd,
w
absurd.
we are in the end times of moronics. I think it's important to take a minute to just
I
marinate
think we
in
have to be
that.
very honest with ourselves as a country that, MAGA really stands for morons are governing America. We have placed a cultural frame around expertise, as our friend Tom Nichols has written about brilliantly, education, and I use this word advisedly, but the hatred of elites of any kind, whether cognitive or financial or anything else, leads them down this rabbit hole where they reward stupid behavior.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
elevate stupid behavior. And 300,000 years of human evolution or whatever the hominid phase of evolution, what you wanna use is, has been about us being less stupid,
Yeah.
so we do not get
Yeah,
eaten.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we're getting eaten. I
Getting
think
eaten.
that's it. We're definitely getting eaten. At best, we're gonna get eaten. At worst, who knows? So, let's talk about the Trump has continued to express his ire towards the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Well, he's
I
fired
feel
her.
he fired her, but now he's still truthing about her. So, I wonder, does she end up in CCOT? Yes, right?
Oh, listen, I wouldn't doubt anything at this point with this guy. He could do the sort of thing that he's doing with trying to do with Jack Smith right now. "Oh, Hatch Act." These are the
Uh,
people that have treated the Hatch Act like it was,
right, I know,
not
and
even a
H&M.
recommendation, but more of a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah.
But, look, I think there are a lot of people in the markets who do not like the idea of not having good data to go by. Why?
Right.
Not only do they like making money, they also have a fiduciary obligation to have correct data for their clients. And so, Trump
But
eliminating
it
that, and it's like a lot
but
of
it's
other third
also
world leaders have done.
this is a problem that Biden world had too with the inflation. You
Sure.
cannot tell people something and then have
Correct.
them have a lived experience that does run counter. So,
Right. Your
you'll
gas
have
costs $1.50 now, and people are like,
right.
Where?"
Where? And that's the thing is, like, Donald Trump can bring in Mr. Wonderful as the head of Bureau and Labor Statistics, or he can bring in Eric, give Eric the job. But what
Eric needs
happens
a job.
he does. But what happens is people have their own lived experience, and their lived experience will not jive with Mr. Wonderful telling them that
That's correct.
orange man, great. And
That's
so I
correct.
think we're gonna play out, and it's hard for me to imagine that things don't get worse before they get better.
He's used up all the economic capital that he had. He's burned it. The
Mm.
tariffs, this insanity, fighting with the Fed, the markets are now reaching the point they're like, "Oh god, okay, we can't fake this anymore."
Yeah. No, it's
They got
true.
their tax cut, so
Yep.
they've achieved their goals in the second Trump administration by and large.
At
So,
least the estate tax has gone down, which is what all of Americans really longed for.
every middle class American really thinks at
Right.
night, "My god, how am I
Protect
going to dispose of my $25 million estate if I die and not screw my children financially?"
yes, for America has once again benefited from
What once again,
Republican trickle-down economics. Rick Wilson,
Molly
w
Jong-Fast.
will you come back?
I'll come back. You
You'll
know
come
me.
back?
I
Uh,
come back every time.
alright. Alright. That's right. It's all
Alright.
happening.
We'll see you next time.
I'll see you next time.